Hey folks, so today I want to talk to you about Brighton. And I know normally with these I tend to create them as I'm talking to you. But today I want to do something slightly different because there's just quite a lot in here it will end up being like an hour-long video if I make it with you. So instead what I've done is I've created it, I want to talk to you about it, and then what I suggest you do is to revise this at home, it's just pause it to create your own or just review it and have a little listen. Many of you know I grew up in Brighton for part of my life anyway, so I know it really well, but also we go there, don't we, to do our fieldwork in year 10 or sometimes in year 11. Now, Brighton is our UK case study city. We're not doing Bristol, we're not doing London. Brighton's nice and local to us, and it's got everything we need to learn about. I'll start over here and I'll move my way along. So firstly, green spaces. Brighton has 175 green spaces, and that's not including the seafront. Okay, this is the seafront down here. It's really, really good because congestion's a bit of an issue in Brighton, and these green spaces provide some fresh air. It's a brilliant place for wildlife. It encourages biodiversity. It's also wonderful for leisure activities. So it gives people spaces to play football or hang out with their family, go bike riding. And it was actually rated the best parks in the UK, which is quite a claim to fame. So we're really happy with sort of its green spaces. I think, the smiley face shows it all. These are really good things for Brighton. And it's been brought into their education system as well. So if you're a child in Brighton, a primary school, you'll likely be part of this Forest Schools education programme for children, where you get taken to parks, forested areas, wild areas, and actually sort of learn about insects and wildlife and different plants and creatures and things. So that's all really, really positive stuff. However, there are some negatives. Access is a bit of an issue. Only 1% of minority groups actually access these wonderful spaces. Now I'm not going to go into the details of why, but I just think it's important that we notice that. And if we look at deprived areas, people from deprived areas, 33% of people from those areas are using them, meaning, a large proportion are not. And again, we're not going to go into the whys and wherefores, but it is important to notice that they're not freely accessible for everyone, or people aren't using them. Now, Brighton is known as the hippiest and happiest city, and that's largely to do with its young population, its bustling tourist destination. Lots of people come down from Brighton. 7.5 million visitors a year. I mean, this is a huge amount of people. When you think its population is only 289,000, the visitors far outweigh the locals. In fact, at that ratio in the summer, you'd struggle to find a local person. But if you did find a local person, you would find that 14% of their population are actually students. That's because there's 2 universities in Brighton. There's Sussex University and Brighton University. And lots of people come to Brighton to go to those universities from all over the UK and even internationally. Also, if you looked at the population, you'd find there's slightly more men than women, and that's partly down to the sort of the diverse culture that Brighton has, and it's well known for being, sort of a bit of a gay capital. However, when we look at the population of Brighton, it is shocking to see that after London, it has the highest rate of homelessness. So it sort of goes London, Brighton, and then Bournemouth. Don't exactly know why that is. It might be linked again to these visitor numbers and people hoping to do well on the streets there. But it is sad to see that there is a big issue with homelessness. 1 in 69 people in total are homeless, and there's quite a lot of urban deprivation. We studied a place called Whitehawk, which is just northeast of the pier, that end of town, and there's a lot of low income, there's high unemployment, should have an arrow going up, high unemployment, high crime, high homelessness, okay, all really, really big problems. And because of this food poverty and issues, there is a food bank and there is help for homeless people, but nowhere near enough as there needs to be. Now, if we leave the top of the map for a moment, we come down here. This is supposed to be the pier, by the way. We've now got, on the other side, so we've got the seafront. We're just looking at the seafront. We've got Brighton Marina, which is, if you remember, it's our place looking at sort of how places have redeveloped, how they've changed, really. Because it used to be just for fishermen and it was quite industrial, what we know as a brownfield site. And then what happened was they changed it. They spent millions of pounds, £250 million to be precise, to build luxury apartments and shops, bars, restaurants. They gave 300 people new jobs and they built 853 new homes. And a lot of this was all using renewable energy as well. So that's really exciting, what they did there. And when we go to Brighton, we sort of look at this site and we talk to people and we find out what they thought, of the changes. Some people are obviously thrilled with it. It's provided a venue, a place to go, it's exciting. But others feel that really the flats were too small, that they didn't like the underground parking, that they felt really there wasn't enough green space, so not enough actual sort of places to just be. It was all too concrete, really, too many buildings. So that's Brighton Marina. Moving along, then we've got the pier, haven't we? And that's quite a tourist spot. Let's have a look at some of the challenges in Brighton. We've got things like congestion. There's really bad air pollution. And we're drawing the cars there showing it. Really bad air pollution in Brighton, and that's partly because there's too many cars for the road. So there's just a lot of traffic and a lot of cars sitting still. Drivers in Brighton spend the equivalent of 5 days a year in their cars, and they're pumping out all that CO2, and that's obviously really bad for shoppers and people in Brighton. And actually it's one of the worst air pollution in the UK, and the UK is worse than Europe. So we are really not doing very well with that. Costing the UK government £300 billion a year, and every single year 40,000 people in the UK die from congestion. So it's a major issue. Congestion is the big one, really, for the UK. And now finally looking at solutions. So what they've done, there's our little eco bus. They have created these eco buses which cost, I think it was around, there it is, I was going to say 10 million, £9.9 million to build them on 30 new buses. And when they're in the city centre, they actually don't use any, they're not pumping out any carbon at all. They're all electric, totally hybrid buses. When they're out of town, then they run their diesel engines as part of how they work. So not perfect, but they're pretty good within the city centre. Also, they've made new cycle lanes. You can actually cycle all the way along the seafront here, but they've made new ones as well. And they've put things in called a park and ride. So you park your car, you get on a bus that takes you into the centre of Brighton. It'll take you back to your car at the end of the day. And that is, put it in there, it's £5 per person. And obviously, if there's quite a few of you, that could get quite expensive. So, it's good and it's not good. So what we're seeing is a city that's got wonderful things going on, but also quite a lot of challenges. And it's looking at how they're trying to address those issues. But I'll leave this here. You can pause it and you can crack on with creating your own version. Don't forget that your book will have most of the information in. It won't be in the revision guide or anything. And our two places that we looked at were Whitehawk and then kind of Hove Seafront, which is our really safe zone. I had beautiful housing and off-street parking and lots of lovely lighting and less crime. So there's a heck of a lot going on in this case study, and again I'll leave it here so that you can do a bit more to create your own infographic.